excited for these, not for myself, but just the whole series, because I love podcasts. So like this whole idea is super exciting to me.
Yes, and thank you. I'm super excited for this. Welcome to the first Purpose and Passion Project. That's kind of a tongue twister. Episode 1, and this is just so exciting because I got the calling on my heart in December that, especially through Connect and just what we share at VFit, hearing people's stories, they need to be shared. And it's hard. A lot of people aren't comfortable sharing their stories, or they don't know where to start, or they worry what other people are going to think, or if their story even matters. And everybody has a story. I believe every story matters. And my passion and my purpose of this project is that you will hear something in each episode from each person that I interview that will give a positive impact on your life. And you'll hear something they said, or how they faced a hard situation or overcame, or maybe it's a quote they use. And so I just know deep in my heart, this is going to reach the people that need to hear these stories. I'm so excited. Lauren is one of my best friends through this journey. I have not known Lauren outside of VFit, but having Lauren as my first guest is perfect because we are so close now. And the mantra for 2023 at VFit is to live on purpose. And I think it's a podcast that's not a podcast, but it's our own version. We never do everything correctly or by the book. This has purpose. This sharing of these stories is for a reason, and there is a purpose behind it. And that's part of the mantra, is to like get up every day and choose to live on purpose. You're here on purpose, and there's no story that's insignificant. And so, Lauren, where are you logging in from, my friend?
Roseville, California. So if you don't know where that is, Northern California, about 30 minutes from Sacramento.
Yes, and Lauren is now a VFit trainer, but she started, I just looked up her stats. Those of you that know Lauren are gonna just crack up at this. And this podcast is for everybody. So I really hope it reaches people that are not VFitters and you get to know us a little better. I'll be interviewing a lot of VFitters because they have a lot of impact on me, but hopefully other people in my mastermind group and just that have coached me and how to impact. But Lauren, her first VFit class was April 3rd, 2018. You guys are gonna die. It was Unwind Yoga. That was Lauren's very first VFit class. So Lauren is my cardio loving soul sister. We probably both need a lot more unwind in our life, but isn't that funny? That was her first class. But I wanted to bring Lauren on today. Her story is a story about running and marathon training, but it relates to so many lessons in life. And Lauren's had a hard time sharing because she is so humble and she is so just wants to pour into everybody else. But this story is so amazing, and it's one of like doors that are shut that lead to other opportunities, and just some really cool takeaways. So how long have you been running, Lauren? Were you born?
I kind of dabbled like starting in high school, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I would just hop in with friends and stuff. So talking high school, that was like almost 20 years ago. So I would say 20-ish years, which sounds crazy when I say that. So, but just for fun, kind of fitness, just kind of see what it was about. But I would say like starting to do races and like getting into it probably in the last, I would say 11, because I started kind of taking it more seriously when I had my firstborn, and she's 11. So probably about 11 years.
No, I love that. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get, if you know Lauren or have met her or work out with her, a lot of it is talent. She's tall, she's strong, she's built to run, but there's so much more behind that. And so I didn't even know the answer to that one, how long, but so 11 years. Yeah, you have a kid, you're like, gotta get out more and clear that head, sweat the crazies out. Lauren is, anyone, I'm pretty sure most VFitters know that she is she won't call herself, but I will, elite marathon runner. This girl runs, well, we'll get to that, what some of those stats are, but okay. So I'll kind of tell a little of our story, and then we're gonna lead into the first marathon that I knew Lauren, which was Boston 2018, right?
19.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Yes.
Okay. Because then,
Yes.
okay.
I'd already been at VFit for, I think, like about a year.
Okay. So yes, Lauren had been at VFit. Her sister was a VFitter. She was just a regular, not a regular. There's no regular members, but she was on the member side. And we just clicked. I think you took a lot of my classes and just, we have this special way at VFit, you guys all know, of just, you get to know each other. If you put yourself out there, the more you put yourself out there to get to know people. And so Lauren and I, we became friends. Like, I still had never met her in person. Oh, that's a funny story in itself. We'll get to that one. So then I knew somehow it came up, she was running the Boston Marathon in 2019. What month was that? October?
April. So it's normally every April.
Okay. So she had been a VFitter for about a year and was training for the Boston Marathon, which I think in itself is just incredible. You have 3 kids, you work, and to manage and balance training for a marathon, I think is just very inspiring as well, because you don't give up like fun and trips and doing things. You have a very amazing approach to like being able to just balance a lot of things that are important to you. And I think that in itself is a really good strength of yours. But so Lauren's at the Boston Marathon, and I don't know if it could track you back then. 2018 seems like a lifetime ago. 2019.
Yeah, I don't think we were doing that at the time, because I wasn't really like in anything yet. It was like, just come to class, go.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think we were like tracking her like we do now, but I had your phone number because I remember texting you. How'd it go? How'd it go? Oh my gosh, did you finish? Because I knew how excited and how hard you'd worked for it. And well, why don't you tell us?
Okay. Well, no, it didn't go. Weeks leading up to it, I started having like some pain in my ankle. Like I thought I had a bruise or something. I'd never been injured before running. I'd actually never really been injured, like no broken bones, nothing like that. So I was like, oh, this will just go away. And then I got plantar fasciitis. And if any of you have had that before, it's like super painful. And it came like 2 weeks before the race. So I was just, if runners, they ignore stuff, just FYI, like they do not do anything about it. They're not like, I'll take time off. They ignore it until it becomes like a super problem. So that's pretty normal. And, the trip is paid for. Like, here's the thing, like you plan your trip way in advance. You have to register, you get your hotel, your flights. Like it's a big thing, especially if you're flying across the country. So I was thinking, well, I'm not going to cancel because nothing's really wrong. Like it'll be fine. I'll just take some ibuprofen and it'll be fine. But I started the race. It was fine. And then at mile 8, 9, it just felt like my bone was literally like cracking in my ankle. I've never felt anything like that. It felt like my bone was like pounding on the pavement. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had to sit down. And if you're not sure, a marathon's 26.2 miles. And I was only at mile 8 and I could not move anymore. Like, I think had I been in the 20s, I would have like crawled or hobbled or something, but I was just like, yeah, there's no way. So I had to call my husband to come pick me up, and people that were tracking at the time saw that I didn't finish or saw that I'd stopped, and I was getting all these texts and I was just crying. I was a mess. So when Rochelle texted me, I'm just like crying and texting her back. Like I told her what happened. I didn't finish, it was super disappointing. It feels, I know people that don't run may not get it, but like it's super embarrassing. Like just the whole thing, like you're just embarrassed that it happened. Like you didn't pay attention to this thing that was wrong in the first place. And you feel like you let people down and you wasted all this money. It just felt such a big letdown. So yeah, I feel like that's when we started becoming probably like good friends after.
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I think that was lesson number 1, is that I think we all have a situation in life where you can like deal with the disappointment yourself pretty well, or, rationalize through it. But when you feel like you've disappointed other people or let other people down, and I mean, I personally like going through miscarriage and stuff, I feel that, and really that's when we need people the most, and people want to be there for us. So I was just, no one's going to go, oh man, Lauren, but you put it on yourself. And it's, to me, that fear or that letdown of disappointing other people over yourself is something everybody can relate to, because we've all had that experience at some point. And just to if it comes up again in anyone's life, like to say, hey, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to let people pull me up and lift me up when I need it, because, you know, you were knocked down. So that's one door closing. So Lauren comes back to classes. She's in a boot for like months. And that's why I always say, like, you can figure it out. I have the mashup that I wrote for her in a boot. It was like a box. I was like, I am still going to get you sweaty. We were getting our cardio on. And yeah, slowly, Lauren and my relationship, we just started to become better friends. Something about her going through that and just what she shared, I just had a calling from God, like, she's meant to be a trainer. Like Lauren, up to this point, those of you that know her now think she's been a trainer forever. Up until that point, Lauren had probably never even thought about teaching a fitness class. And it takes somebody that sees that in you and I just was like, she would be an amazing trainer. And that was at the time, Lauren, Bridget, and Janelle. I said, hey, do you girls want to like go through a little internship and get your fitness certification and do it together? And I don't even remember if you said, let me think about it, or you just dove in and said yes. But because of what happened in Boston that first time, I believe that the next door opened was for Lauren to become a trainer. And I mean, now we know what that not ended, like we just started, but like Lauren, it was 2020, you started teaching fitness classes. Yes. You could tell that story. You were coming back from retreat, right? What's your very first VFit class you taught?
It was Tabata, and I crashed and burned there too, guys.
Exactly. That's another good story. That's the one we weren't planning, but what's that? Yes.
Yeah, there's been many. I will tell you, you guys, VFit has taught me a lot of life lessons in being able to like go with the flow, put the stick down, don't dwell, because you can't do. You just pick yourself back up and do it. But that first class, like, too long to log in. Like, you don't know these things. Like, I waited too long to log in. My computer was glitching. I left all my instructions in a different room. Like, it was just a mess. And I was like, these people are never coming back. Like, they're never coming back to my class because it was just so bad. And I think I cried after. I was like, Tony, you know. And there's been other classes where you just have issues. That was probably the worst. But
yeah. And then I do think, I hope that lesson, I mean, there's all times where like our internet goes out or something goes wrong or the kids are screaming, or even some of you like coming to classes, you know, and we have to just take a deep breath and say, in the big picture, was that really that big of a deal? And usually it is no, the answer is no. So yeah, fast forward to, what was it, July 2020, we had retreat going to happen in August, which it did happen. But Lauren, I forgot what happened. I'm just like, Lauren, come on over with your kids to, you know, I live 6 hours across the mountains from her, 4 actually. And she gets in the car with her 3 kids and just shows up at not just shows up, I had invited her, but comes to my house, and we had never met in person. And then we were laughing after, we're like, thank goodness we really did get along, because that was a lot to like just bring 3 kids and travel across the mountains. And I mean, now we've done so many trips and retreats together and stuff like that. But that flash forward to Boston again. So I love how you call it your redemption run. Was that in 2021, right?
Yeah. So after the injury, a few things, a little bit more balance with VFit classes, because I would go hard when I joined. I don't know if you guys remember, but when you join, you just get all excited and take every class. And there's just things that I changed a little bit about what I was doing about more functional fitness and all that stuff. So I was smarter, no injuries. And then, yeah, COVID happened. So there were no races for a long time. So when they opened it back up, it was October 2021. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is my redemption run. I'm going to finish this thing. So I just went in there just to have like fun and cross the finish line. That was the goal of that race.
And you did do well. That was one when we did track. I remember at VFit, everybody got the track and we were cheering her on, and we could see that she finished, and seeing on the other side, everyone was so proud. And I always tell Lauren, like, I shouldn't say never, but I don't see myself ever running a marathon, especially paying to do something like that. But but I love the journey, because I feel like we're her training partners. Like, we get to cheer her on, we're in classes. And so I think that's another lesson in this whole thing. Like, your goal, what you're chasing after, what you're doing, doesn't have to be the same thing as somebody else, but the journey, you know, the lessons, the triumphs, the setbacks, like all of that can have similar flow. And I think that's important. You can, and sometimes why Lauren has a hard time sharing, because she's like, well, it's just running, not everybody runs, or this person went through something horrible or is going through cancer, and I'm talking about my running. And I said, but that might be what gets them through their last chemo session, is something you said about your lesson. And so that's something big with sharing our stories. Will get to where it needs to go. And so, yeah, then Lauren you did a few more races and you were doing good. And so then you wanted to see where you can really get yourself to if you pushed or trained a little harder. So what was that next step after that?
Yeah, so I at that point I kind of was just following like a plan out of a book. So when you do different races, like you can look at plans online, you can look at plans in books. I had never actually taken any running like seriously until I actually had my son. He's 5, and I had a friend who was like, why don't we follow like this training plan? And I was like, okay. It's funny to think of now how just like I didn't have a running watch, you guys, just kind of like clueless I was about all of this. So it still feels relatively new sometimes. So I followed this plan, and I was kind of getting the same times like over and over and over, and they were good, but I was like, if I can do that, and I'm just doing this myself, like I wonder what I could do. Like I wonder what I could do if I had someone help me. Because you can push yourself to a certain point, and some people can probably do it the whole way, but I knew if I wanted to accomplish more, and I kind of had this lofty goal in the back of my head that I didn't tell anybody about, kind of brewing for a while, that I was needed like a coach to help me so that they could tell me like, and I know I'm a dietitian, but like exactly like how much more I should be eating and how often I should be running fast and slow and how many days a week. Like it felt so felt kind of unknown, and I didn't want to get hurt. So I thought, I'm going to do this smart, and if someone tells me what to do, like I'll do it. I'm a very good rule follower. So if they write a plan, I'll follow and check it off. So yeah, 2022, just this last year, I reached out to a running coach that I kind of know, like a running community, people know each other. And she'd been in the Sacramento area, but I reached out to her on Instagram because I followed her, and she was living somewhere else at the time, and just said, I love watching you. I think we're super similar. And if you have any openings, I'd like you to coach me. So that was probably like last spring. Yeah.
And I mean, there again, another lesson I kept telling her, like, we all need coaches. I talk about all the time how I have different coaches and how we're coaches to so many of our members and teammates. Like, it is good to need coaches. That is what is going to get you to the next level. That is going to give you that accountability, that community, all of that. So nobody ever gets so good at anything that they're like, okay, I don't need anybody else. So I was so proud. I thought that was such a great inspiration, that here you were doing really well, but you wanted to see how to get to that next level, and you knew it was going to take having someone help guide you there. So I think that's huge in everything, because a lot of people, I mean, I'd say even with fitness, most people who are pretty out of shape or haven't worked out for a long time, they have this idea in their head that they have to get in shape before they start. I think it's that fear of judgment and just all of that other stuff. But the key is you actually probably really need like a personal trainer, or not just a gym membership. You need a plan and coaches. And so at every level, I don't know anyone that wouldn't need in some area of life some sort of coach or mentor. And I just think that's awesome. So then, yes, she's training for New York. If you've been to any of our retreats lately, or Lauren would get up and we'd be out paddleboarding and she'd go on her run at altitude. She just always made it happen, but it never was like, I have to go. I don't know. I really always admire your ability to balance your training with still living your life and enjoying life. And so yeah, she's gearing up for New York, which it wasn't that long ago, right? October?
It was November.
November. Yeah. And yeah, getting close to New York, she was starting to get different pains and just, you could tell. I like the way you tell that part of the story.
No, I'm just laughing again, because it's like, oh my God, here we are again, like 2 weeks out, and I have an injury. But going back to the thing about not letting it rule your life, like, I mean, I do this for fun, and you kind of have to remember that with stuff like this is something I want to enjoy and like push myself, but it's not my job. I pay to do it. And so, I met so many of my wonderful, like my best friends through fitness, through like my running friends, like we travel together, we run together. And even if we're running different paces and things, like I still want to make sure that I keep it fun and have that time with them. So yeah, I don't get so hyper focused that I have to drop everybody else and just do my own thing, right? I try to make it work so that, because people make comments all the time, like, well, I couldn't run with you. And I'll run any pace. I love talking and running, like those two things, or exercising and talking. So I'll make it work with pretty much anybody. But yeah, so in October, we were actually together with a few friends, and some of you were there. And I don't know, my knee started to hurt, and then my IT band, and then I had sciatica, just all this stuff. And I could not run at all. And again, the race was like 2 weeks out. And so I very quickly stopped running, reached out to a chiropractor, reached out to a physical therapist. And I'm basically like, can you fix this in like the shortest amount of time possible? And it took some work, but luckily it worked. A good friend of mine squeezed me into her physical therapy practice, and the chiropractor adjusted everything. And I had a time goal, and I realized that probably wasn't going to happen, unfortunately, after training for like 6 months, just because I was injured. And I've told some of you this before, but the weather they had some freak weather out in New York. It's normally like 50s, 40s, 50s in November, and it was like high 70s and very humid. And it's not good running weather. Just, it might sound nice, but it's not good running weather, and definitely not like midday, like 9:30 to 1 p.m. is just, so I was like, I'm going to have to readjust and just go out there. And my only goal ended up being to like finish the race and just have fun with my friends. So sometimes, even though you have all this buildup, you might have to change it quickly. And I could have, I went through periods of disappointment. Like I was very sad, thinking I might not even get to go, so I might not even finish. And we repeat Boston all over again. And I love Rochelle, but she'll talk about all my running all the time with everyone. I'm like, oh no, they're gonna know. They're gonna know. I'm doing, and people know, and you don't, they know what happens. So that was
yeah. And you got sick after, right? Like you were like physically, like your muscles cramped up, you threw up, like the condition.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, it was not a good race at all. Actually,
she still did very well, but it's again, you have to put yourself out. Here is another lesson. Like you have to put yourself out there, and it might end in disappointment, or it might end in, we'll get to the end of the story. But if you don't put yourself out there, like you don't even have a chance to ever achieve any sort of goal. Or and one thing you didn't really touch as much upon, because we were sharing it with the trainers and stuff, but you and Connect group, you really changed your mindset going into New York. Like you went into this amazingly positive place of like, I'm going to go and experience it and have fun, and I'm not setting these expectations. Like you gave yourself this amazing grace to just to be okay with not having the perfection or the expectations that you had for yourself. And I think that's a fine line, because sometimes we can let ourselves off too easy. Like, right, you set a goal and then you're like, oh shoot, that's a lot harder than I thought. That was too hard of it. Like you don't push yourself enough. But then there's also those times where like, I'm either going to hurt myself. And I remember sending you the Rachel Hollis podcast too, where she repeated something, and like, you have to, at what cost is this worth? This isn't worth getting hurt. This isn't worth, so that there's a lot of training that went in and that really prevailed on your New York race. And that was really, it was amazing to just watch you go through that and hear you, and like you truly, you enjoyed it. I mean, as unenjoyable as it was, well, but even a couple of days after.
Yeah, in the moment it was a little rough. At the end it was rough because I felt so sick, but in hindsight I was able to kind of, but that was the other thing about when you get a coach, like they help you with that mindset. I was like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Because I felt like kind of lost. Like, do I try to push it? Do I not? Do I go? And she's just like, just go and take it all in with your friends. She's like, just run the race. And that was super helpful, because I think I just needed that permission that like all the work that we built up to, like I didn't have to do it at that point, right? Like she's just like, this is what you've been dealt now, so you just go and have fun. And so that was kind of a relief, and that's what I did.
And
But yeah,
then came home, and your injuries, you weren't actually like injured at that point. You felt it was just the conditions and everything else. So came home, she had one more marathon on the, look, I still have pink on me. It's everywhere. I got pink marker yesterday all over my office. So then when was that Sacramento race?
Yeah, it was a month later, so 4 weeks.
So a month later, she had another marathon, and she didn't even want to tell any of us about it.
No.
She like wasn't even going to tell she was running the race, and then finally she's like, okay, I'm going to tell the group I'm doing it, but I'm not going to tell them my goal or my time. And then I forget if you even told us your goal or your time, but coming up to it, it was in Sacramento. So Lauren's in her hometown, has friends. You knew your running coach would be there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you decided that you were going to hit that goal. You told yourself, you envisioned it, you tweaked a few things. You finally listened to your coach on some of the food and hydration. But how did you tell me? You said, you even wrote on your arm, didn't you?
Yeah. So we kind of decided, I already had this planned that if, New York didn't go well, like it was very unlikely that we'd have bad weather conditions here. So we're like, okay, we're just going to tweak some stuff. Like you said, like way more hydration, more electrolytes, a little bit more food. And I told myself, like leading up to this, I know this is going to sound cheesy, but if you've ever had this experience, like I would randomly picture myself like getting that goal. Like the finish line was ahead. I would see the time, and it was like what I wanted. And I would get like emotional about it because I was like, I think I can really like do this thing. And so I just told myself, like, you're going to do this. Like, you're going to do it. Today is your day. And I would just say it like over and over, basically. Yeah, I wrote these little things on my arms, and it was cool. She talked me all through that too. She kind of gave me words to think about through different parts of the race. And so I wrote them on Sharpie on my arm, and I just tried to be really smart. And I was like, we talked about it, and she's like, what do you want to get out of this? And I said, I just want to run smart, follow the plan that you talked about, because that's what should work, and just go have fun and know that I could do the best that I could. So.
But that's not cheesy. I mean, we talk about that words, all of that stuff all the time at VFit. I mean, I'm looking at all my words, and like, when you set intentions, that's manifestation. That's the law of attraction, energy. That's letting spirit connect to, God's source. And so like, I don't think that stuff is cheesy. I think that stuff is for everybody to tap into. And you have to get yourself to that level to be able to be there. So, but then it was like raining, almost like the weather was not going to be good, but it ended up being, she's like, oh gosh, it's supposed to be raining all day. But here's like, nothing is by mistake. And this is my, I don't have a favorite part of the story, but this will get you all the chills. Lori P might need to get your Kleenex out. I'm warning you. But so here Lauren is going for her, we'll tell the time, not that I didn't, like going for her goal. And she had not met her coach in person yet. Same thing. I mean, you can get very close with someone, as we know, without actually physically like touching them. But tell us what happened that end race.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there was something I was going to say in that, but I don't remember. Oh, I had this goal written down for a long time, like in the back of my head, just thinking like maybe someday, right? Like maybe someday, but I didn't tell anybody because I don't know. I'm just like that. I keep things to myself because what if I don't do it? Or I don't know why I do that. Anyways, so she was really the only one that knew. I think I might have told the Connect group, but I think people were still kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what she's doing. So, but the coach knew, and she actually runs a pretty similar pace to me, but I didn't know if I'd see her out there. Cause when you get out there on race day, you just got to do your own thing. Like you got to just run your race. But yeah, so she had crossed literally maybe like a minute before me. And I knew what she looked like. Obviously we talked and all that kind of stuff, but I came through the finish. I did beat my goal, but I came through the finish, you guys, and she was like right there. And I just like bawled. I just like cried my eyes out because she was right there, and we like hugged, and I just was like this. And someone somehow snapped a picture of it. So I have this one picture of me like this, like just ugly crying. But as much as Rochelle would say like, oh, everything happens for a reason. You don't want to hear that sometimes, by the way. In the moment, you're just like, oh, sure. But when I look back, like no one was in New York. Like the coach wasn't there, my family wasn't there, my friends weren't. I mean, they were there, but they were running a different pace. So I would have, even if I would have done it, I would have been by myself. And when I came in that day, she was right there. And we just got to be like, I don't know, just so excited together because she also got a big PR for herself. And two of my best friends were waiting. And not that I need people to like praise me or be like, yeah, you did it. But when you have something big happen in your life, it's just people want to celebrate and they all get it. They're all runners. So it was pretty neat. I was very excited that day. It was a really special moment.
So yes, I just love, so many nuggets in there, and I'm sure everyone will get something different out of that journey over those last few years. But when we saw that picture and you just said, I don't know, it's just so beautiful. So that I just thought that was such a good way to start this podcast off, because that's just story of ups and downs and triumphs and support and celebration. And I mean, there's so many nuggets in there for every single person to take something from. So if anyone has any questions, and just to get to, Lauren is an amazing human being. She's become one of my best friends, a huge part of VFit on both sides, trainer and back end side. And I just feel so blessed that just you were meant to be part of this team and share your journey, and to be able for me to pull that out of you is, I feel, one of my strengths that I want. That's why I want to do this, because I know it's not easy to get up here and share, and to, we can get in our head the opposite way too, of, the negative and what does that person think, and worrying about all of that. And so if we can be, I always tell Lauren, and it hit in like that little, you don't always want to hear it, but I always say, don't dim your light for anybody. And I want everyone to know and believe that, like, do not dim your light. It gets me chills saying it because I believe it so deeply. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. There's a lot of things that you say a lot, like you have to just believe. It doesn't matter what you do. And that's why I don't always talk about running, because people don't relate to it or whatever, but like whatever you decide you want to do, just believe like you can do it. And just, even if you get knocked down, like you just keep going. And that might look different for everybody. Or maybe you're like, maybe I want to try that. And you just, go sign up and do it. But not letting your light dim, that's, or keeping it back from others. That one can be kind of tough sometimes, because you don't want to make people feel a certain way or whatever. But thank you for having me, and always encouraging me to share, even when I don't want to.
Well, I think back to the person who got me into fitness, and she's not a big part of my life anymore, but I do text her. And in fact, at retreat in October, she saw something in me and pushed me out of my comfort zone. And, you need those people around you that, see that little light that may be dimming, or that strength that you maybe don't quite believe in yet. And I think we have that power to do that to our kids as well. Any children in your life, they don't have to be your own kids, grandkids, like really work on building up people's strengths, because we're so quick in this society to even think about your kids bring home their report card and the subject they didn't do the best in. You're like, you got to work on that, instead of praising what they're really good at and their strengths. So I think seeing these strengths and each other is just so beautiful. So yes. And there's a couple of you coming back from injury right now, or surgery. So let that tell me, hey, again, right? And you never give up, and you guys inspire us. So knowing all of your stories, I will tell you, you inspire us so much, every single member, and that you guys, and you'll be some of my interviews too, as we get through it. I have no shortage. So I think my plan is probably twice a month to do this and share it, and we'll post it on, our channels. We'll send you the recording. If there's someone you think, would benefit from listening to this, share it. I never say this is a gift I want to give the world. I have no expectations or anything motives behind doing this. It was just a calling on my heart, and I want to be, I want to share what I feel the world needs more of right now.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me today. And thanks everyone for coming in.
Yeah, if you have any questions. Oh, Mary had asked if any of your other friends hired that coach. I don't think so, right?
They didn't. They've kind of asked about it. But no, not yet. But I'd recommend her to anybody. I think sometimes people like, they think like, why would I do that? I'm just run for recreation or fun. Well, that's what I do, but like, you never know what you can get out of yourself. So that's why I thought, like I said, I hired her. So, and I'm very glad I did. But yeah, thanks everyone for being here today. And so, I know Toby, or some of you that I know, Evelyn just had surgery, like, just keep plugging away, just modify however you have to, just for that, like, mental. For me, it was a lot of mental, like I wanted to move my body, but just like seeing the trainers, being positive, moving my body, like even if I couldn't do what I wanted to do, that was a big deal, to just keep showing up and doing what you can, and not just kind of letting yourself go in a downward spiral.
Oh, everyone loves this story. So that was a good first episode. Thank you. And we wanted to do it in this format too, because being able to see and know you're all here is, that extra connection. And I think it's important than Lauren and I just sitting here and recording ourselves. So thank you for taking time out of your day today. And yes, hiring an expert is important, Fran said. Yeah, in whatever area of life that might be for you, but I think that, or finding, the resources that you need. So have a wonderful Tuesday, everyone. And we'll get the next one with Lindsay probably a little bit later this month. But yeah, keep on keeping on, my friends. Mwah.
Thank you. All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Bye.